I think it's a very relevant discussion, even though nothing earth-shattering happened. When you bring in countries like Saudi Arabia, Iran, and the United Arab Emirates, you're talking massive major oil producers.
We've got an exciting lineup for you. First up, we'll dive into the latest silver premiums from the past week with Andy Schectman from Miles Franklin, who will shed light on the intriguing topic of storing precious metals and the age-old adage, if you don't hold it, you don't own it. This phrase, often echoed in the world of precious metals, carries undeniable wisdom, but also comes with its own set of risks. But that's not all. Andy will also share his insights on the recent BRICS meeting. Be sure not to miss Andy Schectman's thoughtful speech.
You know, look, it's interesting. The price, really, I think the people who are actively in this market understand what's going on with the price. They understand that it is being done to maintain an illusion of strength and stability in a currency that is fractured and fragmented and starting to lose share of its global dominance. And I think that price is less of a hindrance in terms of its counterintuitive action or its non-performance yet. I think people are understanding, even if it frustrates them, that deep down this is a good thing. This is a subsidy. You don't walk into Nordstrom's and those that are still open that aren't being closed because of theft, but you walk into one and the pair of jeans you wanted are on sale. You don't say, crap, I wish I could pay full price. Now, that's a clever way of saying it. I'm not trying to be, but what I'm saying is that the people have greater understanding now, largely in part, things that you say and the reinforcement of the broader fundamentals that people understand. So, look, I know people would like to see prices moving much higher. We always say, be careful what you wish for. And gold just hit I believe its all-time high in China and Japan just on Friday. So, or maybe even on Monday. It was just the other day. I just read an article that, it's rising in other currencies. The dollar's strength is blinding the reality that gold and silver are performing really well in other currencies. So give it time. And as the dollar starts to lose its share of settlement transactions in energy, I think ultimately it will start to erode its reserve status. And then we will start to see gold and silver take off the way that we have always anticipated. And just have to hang on, I guess, and trust your gut. The U.S. Mint, it's really interesting, Chris, that we talked about the premiums on the U.S. Mint, the coin's starting to climb up a bit. I mentioned, and I say that seriously. I say that on all the podcasts I'm on. I say that your interview with Bart Chilton changed the way that I look at this world in terms of this gold and silver world. And what Jack said certainly blew me away to the nth degree. I think both are required listening if you are invested in metals. And so, they made over 3 million eagles in the month of August. And that's 3 times what they've been making, yet still below what they have the capacity to make. I think they got so lambasted, including Representative, I believe, sent them a letter saying, what the hell are you guys doing? So interesting times. The premiums have, I think, bottomed. They've plateaued. They're not going down further. The Eagles have started to inch back up. The Mint pumped out 3 million. They came down a bit. I guess you'd say we're in a holding pattern right now. And that to me is the most befuddling thing of all. I try to be objective in the way that I look at things. I try to look at things the way that other people would look at things. And I guess the truth of the matter is that, Chris, we're still the minority in this ecosystem of finances. We are still the minority. And until the public wakes up and realizes the importance of protecting themselves with something like a hard asset, like precious metals, the way that the central banks are doing, then I think it's going to be frustrating. It still is substantially more silver dominant. I don't have the exact numbers, but I will tell you that since March and April, there's been an awful lot of gold investment as well. And I attribute that to the instability in the banks, where people are yanking out very large sums of money to protect themselves, to be their own bank. And so in that environment, you could have $100,000 worth of gold right now in your 2 front pockets. You'd have roughly 50 ounces in each pocket. So you'd have some droopy pants, but point of it is you get up right now and run down the street to your car if you had to. 100 grand in silver is 250 pounds or more. So when you talk about logistics and someone pulling out mid six figures and saying, just send me whatever you can, I want out of the bank, it lent itself to more logistic oriented trades as well. And look, I know this is a silver channel. If you look at every promotion I've done for almost 3 years, it's probably been 99.5% silver. I view it as the most undervalued asset, the value of a generation. I do mean that, honest to God. I wouldn't count out gold either. And I tell people that when you have a tier one asset, when you have an asset that is being accumulated by the banks in greater numbers than ever before over the last 18 months, there's a lot to be said for gold, even though silver is the most attractive play on the planet. Put it all together, logistics come into play. And there are a lot of people who would rather not store things, even in a very reputable institution like Brinks. There is wisdom in the statement that if you don't own it physically or possess it, you don't own it. Now, that's really not true, but what is true is that gold and silver are assets that maintain no counterparty risk or are not someone's liability simultaneously with your ownership. So there is something to be said for that. And those people who want to take possession and have any semblance of being nimble, well, I think they would also add some gold into that equation. So pure value, silver takes the cake. But on very large purchases, it can become difficult if you don't want storage. Yeah, I think it's a very relevant discussion, even though nothing earth-shattering happened. You know, when you bring in countries like Saudi Arabia, Iran, and the United Arab Emirates, you're talking massive major oil producers. It's a big deal. You have 23 countries that have formally submitted their application for BRICS 2. You have 22 or 3 countries that have expressed interest in it as well. These are massive events that, you know, I don't think people are really thinking about when they talk about it really being a nothing burger, what came out of the meeting. They were expecting the price of gold to explode. They didn't issue a gold-backed settlement currency, but they came back and tasked their financial advisor, or not the financial advisor, the financial ministers of these countries to do their due diligence and come back next year and bring their findings. What I also found to be recently very relevant is that, you know, you look at Iran, and Iran has now become a full member of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and the BRICS in a span of 1 year. This is massive, right? This is the sanctions that we impose upon Iran are going to be meaningless. And when you have Iran now really being involved with this massive growing union, you can really see how the rallying cry against the Western hegemony and sanctions and their coercion is changing to an environment that settles around cooperation and expansion. And it's not a good thing as far as I'm concerned. You look at Saudi Arabia, their oil exports have fallen to a 6-year low, as has their treasury holdings, which they've been selling and dumping. It's not a good thing. It's little by little and then all at once. One last thing I'd like to talk about regarding 2 things, actually, regarding the BRICS, is that Belarus is now proposing to hold a joint summit between the Eurasian Economic Union and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Now, I have talked about this forever. These 2 groups, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which Saudi Arabia has applied to and Iran has been admitted to, is the largest regional financial and military organization in the world. And the symmetry between these 2 groups and the BRICS nations and the Belt Road is uncanny. There's membership going through all of them. And the proposed meeting is to discuss the convergence of these organizations and how they can meld into BRICS. It's coming. You're seeing a larger and growing expansion of not only human population, but the utility and their GDP and all of their commodities and their military might. And all of these things are coming together. One last piece I'd like to talk about regarding the BRICS. There's been a lot of talk about, well, China and India don't like each other. Well, I'm going to read you one thing here. Chinese President Xi Jinping and Indian Prime Minister Modi agreed last week to seek a resolution to years of tensions along the Himalayan border area. So, in fact, they're agreed to direct the relevant officials to intensify efforts at expeditious disengagement and de-escalation. So these countries are choosing sides, and I think it's really important to understand that this is something that is a trend in motion, and it's not good for the dollar. And people have become accustomed to instant gratification. Typically, it's not quick enough, but this is something that I think needs to be firmly on everyone's radar. It's only going to get crazier from here, as far as I'm concerned.
And that wraps up today's video. We hope you enjoyed our exploration of silver premiums, the "if you don't hold it, you don't own it" concept, and the latest insights from Andy Schectman on the BRICS meeting. If you found this information valuable, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more engaging content. Feel free to share your thoughts and questions in the comments below. Thank you for joining us today, and remember to stay informed and stay curious. Until next time, take care and keep stacking those precious metals.